All right, so welcome everyone. And good afternoon. My name is Jody Bureau. I'm the career counselor here at the Career Development Center, and I'm also the career liaison for the Crum School of Education and Human Development. And thank you so much for attending our alumni panel series. And today we're going to be speaking with 5 different alums from Fresno State and within the teaching realm. So thank you so much for joining us today. And just a little bit of housekeeping first off. Please use the chat feature if you want to ask a question, if anybody would like to. Definitely, we'll try to get through all of those questions. So you could use the chat feature, or you could also use the Q&A questions. That's at the bottom. If a panelist would like to share their contact information, they will do so at the very end, also within the chat feature. Additionally, if you're unable to attend the entire event and you're really wanting to know of what happened at the end, this will be posted on our YouTube account. The easiest way to find our YouTube account is going to our main website, fresnostate.edu/careers, and you can connect to the YouTube account from there. And this will be posted in about 3 or 4 days. So welcome everybody, and thank you once again for attending. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Godfrey, who's our interim associate dean of the Clovis School of Education and Human Development. You have a very long title, and and she will be our moderator today. So I'm not going to take much more time doing just the housekeeping stuff, but instead I'm going to pass the mic over to Dr. Godfrey. And thank you once again for joining today.
Thank you, Jody. And really glad that all of you are here and that you're all interested in pursuing a teaching career. I'm a former English teacher. I taught at what was then a junior high school, is now a middle school. And then I also taught at a K-8 school. So I've got a little bit of many different experiences. But you're here really to learn from these alumni. And so if we could just do a quick go round, if everyone could tell us your name, the district that you teach in, the kind of credential you pursued perhaps, and yeah, just a little bit of information about your teaching. And Cecilia, would you start us off?
Hi, my name is Cecilia Bocanegra. This is my 6th year teaching. I currently work at a small district called Columbine Elementary, and it's in rural Tulare County. Previously, I worked at Fresno Unified, so I come from a big district to a small district. And the credential that I pursued at Fresno State was the bilingual, this really long name. I think it was shortened to like BAP. So yeah, that's the one I did at Fresno State, and I did my student teaching there as well through the Sanger Unified, the cohort. It's been a while. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Cecilia. Brett, would you go next?
Yeah, Brett Wagner. I teach in Modesto City Schools at Modesto High School. I actually kind of opposite of Cecilia. I was at Fireball Middle School, and then I transferred to a bigger district, urban district. So Fireball, little small town out there in West Fresno County. Also, basically social science credential. I was at one point dabbling in science. I ended up pursuing that because I just really love social sciences, geography, and history and all that. So I think I got everything. Was there anything else I needed to say there? Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you. And Jessica, would you go next?
Hi, I'm Jessica Jetty. I'm a Fresno State grad as an alum. I was actually in the Fresno State Fresno Unified Teacher Residency Program. So that was a wonderful experience. I believe they're still running that program. So I was contracted with Fresno Unified, and I worked, our contract was 4th through 6th grade. So I have 6 years experience with Fresno Unified. And then I recently moved to Lompoc Unified. So Fresno being large, and Lompoc is a little central coast town, and it's quite small. So I kind of did what Cecilia did. I went from big to small, and so it's been a learning curve. But yeah, I obtained my multiple subjects credential. Currently working on my administrative credential. Will be done in July. And I am not in the classroom right now. I am actually a teacher support provider, which this district is, it's kind of like an instructional coach. So I support alongside induction mentors. I'm more of an in the classroom supporting every week. Yeah, that's kind of my new role. So yes, thank you for being here.
Great. Monica, would you go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Monica. I currently work for Selma Unified as a first and second special day class teacher. I completed my dual credential at Fresno State. So I have my multiple subject credential as well as a mild moderate credential in education specialist. I've taught at Mendota Unified since I'm from Fireball, small world. But I'm from Fireball, so I worked at Mendota previously. And then before that, I did a half a year at a charter school in Madera. So I've stayed pretty small consistently. Selma's a little bit bigger than Mendota. It has more schools, but it's still pretty much a little bit small. So I like more of the small feel. We only have one SDC like program. So all of the kids are bused to one specific school that only have SDC teachers. So not all the schools have them. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just let me know. I have experience from TK. I've done middle school, I've done high school, maybe not intermediate, but for everything else, yeah.
Thank you. And Aida.
Hi, everybody. My name's Aida Magallanes. I work at Los Baños Unified. Prior to that, I worked for Sanger Unified for 2 years. I obtained my bachelor's and my credential through Fresno State. I actually interned with Sanger Unified while working on my credential. Right now, I am at Los Baños. I am a 5th grade teacher and a designated administrator, and I support teachers with professional development right now through distance learning.
Great. So I have a few questions, and I'll ask one to get us started off, but feel free to ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and I will try to keep track of those. Not all the participants will answer each question. So feel free, participants, to just kind of jump in when you feel like you really have something you want to add. So if a couple of you would describe the process of obtaining your first job, how did you apply for, interview, and make decisions about where to teach?
Well, I could start off, I guess. I didn't know if there was an order, but so actually kind of a weird experience. I got into the credential program at Fresno State after graduating from Fresno State in the Great Recession, 2009. And there was overages. In fact, there's a big job fair for teachers that was going on. We were getting through the credential program, pretty excited, looking around, trying to get jobs. Social studies teachers was definitely one of those jobs where there was not a lot available. And there was overages everywhere. There was pink slips going out. People were getting moved around. I was actually pretty happy because I came out of that job fair with an actual second interview with Fresno Unified. About a day or two before the interview, they called me and canceled because they had too many overages, too many pink slips, and the interview was gone. So I felt really good, thinking, all right, I'm riding high. And so then, you know, it was hard. I was struggling to find a job. I bounced around a little bit. I ended up moving back home, which is Modesto here, and I started actually working as an intervention center, basically in-school suspension is what they used to call it. And then campus supervisor, just kind of getting my foot in the door, substitute teaching, kind of doing a little bit of everything. And then finally got my foot in the door in Fireball Middle School. Sorry, there's my wife behind me and my son in the backyard. And got my foot in the door at Fireball Middle School, had a great time, taught 6th grade through 8th grade. But my wife was working here. It was really hard to get work out there in Fireball. I was driving quite a long ways and finally got an opportunity at Modesto High here in Modesto. I took advantage of it. Fireball was really great and gracious, allowing me to move basically in the middle of the year. and kind of haven't looked back since, but it did take some time. I want to say that I think things are a lot better prospect wise for teachers today, because a lot of the baby boomer generation has retired that or wasn't in the process of retiring when I was getting in. So there's a lot more opening today. But it was definitely a challenge, and I stuck with it, and I'm very happy. I learned a lot along the way. So I kind of have my foot in a lot of different ways, working as a classified staff member, working as a coach, working as a teacher, and then different leadership roles since then. So anyway, that's my long, probably obnoxious.
Thank you. And maybe if one other person could answer that question.
So, sorry. Getting your first job, the first, I think, website you need for sure is EdJoin. You definitely need to go to EdJoin, have your resume, go to as many resume workshops as possible, a letter of interest, your recommendations. Yeah, that's mainly where a lot of the school districts here are just going through EdJoin. Fresno County, Madera, I think, has their own, but I know everybody else around here in the Fresno County and then Fresno Unified uses that.
Currently in my role, we're hiring a lot, what Brett was mentioning, there's a demand. So districts are going to those teacher fairs and those job fairs. So if you can get enrolled, we're interviewing on the spot, job offering when we can. So if you can get out there and do that, definitely get involved with that.
Sorry, just to add, I remember going to those fairs also. Going into it, they suggested don't go to the first one you get the offer, so make sure you shop around. So there's a lot of interested districts, like some of you had said. Even in my district, there's teachers retiring, so there's always openings and places to look for teachers.
So we're going to back up a minute, because there's a question about how you choose which credential program to pursue. And so if you could talk about how you decided to pursue the single subject in a specific content area, the multiple subject, or the SPED credential, since those are the three basic credential programs.
I'll go ahead and go again. So for me, I was a political science and philosophy major. I double majored and kind of just fit right into that category. I've always been interested in philosophy, political philosophy, and government economics. So that was kind of what I saw myself doing. It was just kind of my passion, and that's what I teach now. Fell in love with geography, teaching human geography and IB geography. If you guys don't know what IB is, International Baccalaureate, it's like AP kind of different program. And so just kind of passion, what you really like to do, I think is the best thing. I also had my CSET in science, general science. I like science, but it's not my passion. It wasn't my, I don't get as excited about it as I do talking about government economics and gut and geography. And so it's kind of really, you got to find what you like, I think, and follow that niche and, go for it.
Anyone else like to answer that one? Why you chose the credential program that you did?
Yeah, so I went back to school a little late and got my liberal studies bachelor's degree, and was really wanting to get in. And when I was shopping for credential programs, Fresno Unified just started that residency program. At the time, it was 14 months, 2 credentials, a single subject in math or science, a multiple subject, and a master's degree. It was insane. And since then, they have extended that program. It's a little longer now, and I'm grateful that they did. We were the only cohort that went through that so quickly. But that program was definitely the best option for me personally. What Brett was talking about, kids, right? I kind of looked at Fresno Unified and went to their vision and their mission and what they were about, and said, this is a district I want to work for, and I'm willing to sign a contract and commit to that. And that's what it was. And so I was placed. I didn't really get to interview, but I had to interview for my program, and every class was an interview. So when you're in your coursework and, everyone's networked. So really representing yourself, dressing and presenting yourself professionally at all times will really land you a great reputation when it comes. And the town is small, so when you meet people, people know, and you have a reputation to stand for. So yeah.
So one question is, are districts interested in people who are not yet credentialed? And I would guess that the majority of districts would prefer to hire someone with a credential, but is there enough of a teacher shortage that you do see some teachers being hired as interns? So yes, it looks like everybody's saying yes. Hopefully that's enough information and we can go on. Someone asked about the credential program interview. Basically, how was that for you? And I think, probably, is it something that people need to get nervous about or prepare for, or did you find it to be more of a conversation? And again, I'm not going to call on you, so if anybody just wants to jump in, that's fine.
Sorry, I got booted there.
So the interview process, like I said, mine was a little different. It was residency. We all were interviewed on a panel, and then they had us work together in a project, and we had to show and demonstrate how we work well with others. So it might have been different than traditional credential programs. So I'm not quite sure. But you mentioned prepare. Yes, prepare. Do your research and really find kind of, again, what Brett was talking about, your passion, and be able to speak to why and your purpose. Why are you here? Why are you getting this credential? In any interview in education, that's going to matter. And so as long as you have that identified and really recognize that, and your university supervisor can support you in that, I know mine did, in helping me figure out what that was. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else can speak to other credential programs in that interview process, and what that was like.
So kind of echoing what Jessica said, mine was a little bit different because I started off as an intern. But I will say this, it's really important that you become familiarized with the school district's mission, and you kind of incorporate some of those key terms when they're asking about your vision. They really look for that. So with the first district I worked with, Sanger Unified, I was fortunate because I had just graduated with my bachelor's and they hired me right away. Now with the second district that I'm currently at, which is Los Baños, I had to go through the whole interview process, which consisted of applying on EdJoin, getting my letters of recommendation. And then it was a multi-step process. There was the general interview, which is with the superintendent and head of HR, and that consists of asking questions in relation to the district's core values. And they have almost like a rating system. And then from there, they decide if you go to step 2. Once you pass step 1, you're almost guaranteed a job in step 2, because then you go in and there's a panel which consists of all the principals. And then the principals ask you questions more based off of your pedagogy and the way that you teach in class. And then they decide if you're a good fit for your school. At least that's how the way my current school district has it tailored. So it's really important that you become familiarized with the district's mission. That way you can figure out if it's a good fit for you as well. And then B, become familiarized also with potential schools within the district, because they have missions that differ from each other as well.
So another really great question in the chat is, what is something that you wish you would have learned more about prior to being a teacher that the textbooks and courses did not teach you?
So for me, I started off as a 6th grade teacher. And in 6th grade, classroom management is crucial. Kids are at a time where they're very energetic, hormones are raging. And I personally felt like we learned a lot of theory in class, more about how kids learn, but not so much hands-on classroom management. So I think it's really important that we seek out external resources to get us prepared for managing a classroom. Managing a classroom is a core skill that teachers need to be successful. If you can't manage those students, then you're not going to be able to implement any of that methodology, any of these creative activities that you find. So it's really important that you know how to manage your kiddos and you know how to manage your classroom. So it's really look for those resources.
I think I could echo that so much. I started off in 6th grade as well at Fireball Middle School, and it is a great way to learn when you start off with 6th graders, but 100%. And you know, often we don't think about the trauma that students go through. I'm sorry, my son back here playing around. But you know, they're coming from all sorts of different places, and you know, my first inclination when I first started, my classroom management skills weren't that great. I didn't know how to react to the students. I didn't understand what they were going through. Even though we know the psychology and things, there's so much more to it. And getting to know your students and really having that you know, systematic approach to your classroom structure is going to save you so much time, make your first year easier, and everything better from there on.
Just to add to that as well. I wish I'd known of more opportunities to volunteer in the classroom, be part of, you know, watching teachers do what they're doing, because once you're in the classroom and you're doing it by yourself, it's completely different. Once you see another person, you know, being good at what they're doing, you pick up on some stuff. And a lot of what Brett was saying earlier, that he did all this experience in the classroom, I wish I'd had that prior to being in the classroom by myself. So definitely seek out people that you can volunteer with. And I think I saw somebody mention who you get letters of recommendation. Definitely those teachers that you go and help, and they're more than willing to help you get those letters. And if that's something that you're looking for, and it gets your foot in the classroom as well.
I think that speaks to our profession too. You know, people want to help. Teachers are there to help students, and they want to help other teachers too. I have leaned on colleagues and you know, mentors so much that I would never have survived if that hadn't been the case. So very well said all around.
I think another question is really great because it gets at what I found to be true of classroom management is that you had to have good relationships with your students. And so one of the questions is, what is the best way to create student-teacher relationships?
Student-centered, relationships and building rapport with your students. That's funny. I started in 6th grade too. That's so funny. And it is the best way to learn. You're just thrown in. But really getting to know them. So, and and you can lean on colleagues for that as well and do your own research, but really spend those first 10 days setting those classroom expectations, building those relationships with your students and getting to know them. As humans, you know, outside of the classroom, what are their passions? What are they into? Definitely the best way. Morning meetings is another book I highly recommend. And holding your morning meetings and getting kids talking to each other, especially after this pandemic. There's been some struggles with the social interactions and losing that. So practicing that daily and having those open conversations. And opening up to your students enough in a professional way so they can kind of get to know you as a human as well. Especially with the older kids, I feel that really, you know, in a professional manner, of course, but building that transparency, and you're human too. And, that's the profession, is serving kids and serving our public. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on.
I'll add on something. So I think it's different for high school and then elementary. I've done both. So in high school, the kids aren't as nice as getting to open up to you and wanting to tell you things. So in high school, it is a little bit harder. You have to do more of the prying and like, what did you guys do this weekend? Oh, are you guys going to the football game? Well, this was pre-pandemic, but are you guys going to the football game? Are you guys excited for this? Or how did this class go? Or what did you do after school today? And then it takes a little bit longer than in elementary. In elementary, like Jessica said, you get to have that morning meeting. The kids are really open to talking. You get to, you do calendar time, and that's where, you get the whole thing. So definitely tailor getting to know your students to their age level and their grade too. So it's really important. Their relationships are important, but it's also important to understand who our kids are and what grades they are in. And I attended a training as well. So what you can do as well, they said that you can focus on one student and ask them one question a day, and then you'll get to know that student, and then you can switch it up as well.
So another question is, I'm curious about why all 5 of these teachers have moved districts. Is that typical? And why do teachers move districts?
Sorry, Monica. I moved because my husband's military and there's an Air Force base here. And that was the only reason I moved. I was born and raised Fresno Unified. I would have stayed forever, but I had to move for personal reasons. Yeah, Monica, go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. I started Madera. I was as an intern, and then I moved, and I lived in Fireball, and I was commuting, and the commute was horrible. So then I just got a job closer to where I live with my parents, and then I was moving again to Fresno. So then I got another job. So a lot of times it isn't just because you hate where you are, it's because you have to move, or you have to do something, or maybe you want to move up a step, or something like that. I feel like it's not always just bad. It's just moving or a commute, or you want to go somewhere else. It just depends.
Yeah, same here. The reason I moved, I would have stayed Fireball forever. In fact, it was kind of a joke that my family was like, you're going to be like the old football coach that never leaves there. But my wife actually tried to get a job in Fireball, and they only offered a 2-hour position, and she had a full-time job. And I was commuting from Modesto to Fireball. If anybody knows how far that is, about an hour and 45 minutes. So I was losing my hair very quickly on the commute, and it just wasn't viable. It was also a cost thing. Fireball definitely didn't pay as well as Modesto City Schools does, but the cost of living's higher too, right? But I already lived here, so it just made sense. But I would have stayed in Fireball in a heartbeat. I loved it there. Great community. It just came out financially what was better for me at the time.
So another question has to do with building parent-teacher relationships. And this attendee is worried about when parents or guardians are not that involved in a student's education. So what can you do to foster relationships with parents?
That's tough. Often if a student's parents aren't involved, there's already underlying issues, maybe financial issues and other things going on. My best advice in those situations is to open yourself to those students and realize that maybe you'll be the support they need. You're never going to replace their parents, and that's not the goal. And their parents may not be doing it intentionally. It may just be a literal working 3 job situation. And I mean, I've literally had that. And so, you got to look at it from both lenses, and just, again, those relationships with the students will help foster that as well. When it comes to getting, it depends on the grade level too. Senior parents, you're not gonna, they're kind of like, you're already an adult, they're pushing their kids out the door. But freshman parents, you know, they're brand new kids. They're going to be much more engaged. You're going to see a lot more buy-in. And again, it depends on programs and all sorts of things in the community. Just be open, be honest, and reach out. You know, sometimes there's language barriers. So sending communications home, I feel like a lot of teachers, especially new teachers, are really afraid to reach out to parents, to give them a phone call. And I'm telling you right now, the only thing that saved me as a 6th grade teacher was phone calls. And even when there was language barriers, there's people in the office, there's all sorts of support to mend that. And I'm telling you right now that that's the best thing. 99% of parents are going to be very involved in a different way. They care. They just don't maybe know how to reach out or be connected to the teachers. So that's on us. We have to take the first steps. And you know, you gotta be open-minded about that, because there's different cultural reasons and issues and again, financial situations. And so be open, be mindful, and be supportive.
And just to add on to that too, admin is really good at reaching to the community. So never hesitate to ask admin for help as well, because they're more knowledgeable of the community that they serve. So if you're a new teacher in a different community, I think that's a good resource to seek out to parents, and like you guys said, newsletters or just having somebody in the office translate for you. I think it's like most of you had said, taking that first step and reaching out to those parents is the most important part.
So back to one of the questions about the job search process. Could you talk about whether you can negotiate your salary when you get a job offer?
So in my district, and I'm sure this is how it's set up in other districts as well, when you look at the pay scale, you're looking at it horizontally and vertically. Vertically is the amount of time you have teaching. So for example, since I moved from one district to the other, they honored the time that I put in as a teacher. So they allowed me to transfer that experience to this district. So I started at like step 3 or 4. Now, if we're looking at it horizontally as well, that's based off of the units that you acquire during your credential program and after. Now, I know that there are some credential program, there's a credential program through Fresno State where you're simultaneously working on your bachelor's and you're obtaining your credential as well. So it gets a little tricky in terms of salary placement. But basically, the more units you acquire, you move to the right, and the more time you acquire, you move down. And in terms of what the increments are, that's dependent on the district that you serve.
And I think you could argue in a smaller district, you might be able to get years of service a little bit more, because they might be more open to giving you more years of service as a teacher. Obviously, you guys are going to be new teachers, so that won't be a big concern. The bigger districts, it's a lot harder. You know, the unions kind of have the salary schedule set. That's where you are. So there's really not a lot of negotiation there, but you know, you obviously can be active in that process as well.
There's also stipends. So like I know Cecilia says she has a bilingual, so you can get bilingual. If I have special education, so you have a special education. I have my master's, so I get a master's. There's so many that you can, there's a doctorate as well, but that's different. And then also like Brett had said about the years, only some districts take the years. I know my district, I had a coworker who left her job somewhere in LA, and then she came here and they gave her 20 years of working. So you really just want to go somewhere where you can get all of your years if you do plan to leave, let's say after 10 years, because only the more, like how Brett said, the bigger districts aren't as open as getting all of your years if you leave, let's say after 12 years.
And then one more pay related question. What do you do during summer? And also, can you decide to teach summer school, or is it a random selection?
I could speak to that. For summer, it depends on the district. So it was different in Fresno than it is where I am now. Where I am now was like a summer savings program, which I had never heard of. And so when I first signed on, I took a deduction from each month's paycheck and they saved it for me in this mystery account. And then I got it over summer. So it was it was bizarre to me. Fresno just continued to pay me all the way through. They divided it by 12 months. So it was an even pay. In Fresno and my current district, summer was an application process. You applied, and we're interviewing right now. I'll be doing summer school principal this summer, but it's totally elective. Like you can decide to sign up and it's additional pay on top of your current pay or your summer savings pay. So I'm not sure what other districts are doing, if it's similar or not.
Yeah, it really depends too, that there's all sorts of different programs like our with the pandemic and everything, our district's offering a re-engagement process now where you can create your own program in order to try to get students kind of getting back into school and getting back into the idea of being in a classroom. And so it's kind of a neat thing that's obviously brand new, something we haven't done before. I actually started a program at Modesto City Schools called the Summer Bridge Program, where we brought in 8th grade students, EL students, at-risk students. I got them basically early freshman credits, and then we had a lot of fun activities too. There was a lot of enrichment process in there as well, teaching them geography, world religions, and which is in our district is a requirement for graduation. So got them ahead, kind of a push start, and that allowed them also to have their ELD classes, usually because they have 2 periods, so it messes up their kind of electives. So it just depends on the district's programs. Years ago, there was almost no summer school program. There wasn't funding for it. That's kind of turned the corner, I think. So yeah, it's like Jessica said, there's many different options, but almost all of them are elective. And there's teachers that just need the time off just to take a break. And again, I think that's an argument on what level you teach. When I taught 6th grade, I definitely needed the summer off. When I taught sophomores, I was okay with working still. And I was a coach, so I coached football over the summer. I was pretty busy doing that. So there's a lot of different things you can do. It's just really up to you. But there's a lot of opportunity right now, comparatively to years past.
Definitely. I also want to mention that in the summer, don't feel like you're limited to districts. Counties offer a lot of programs. For example, in addition to working for my district, I also serve Tulare County Office of Education. So there are a lot of things under the umbrella of education. Don't feel confined to a district. You can, for example, I'm a regional trainer and I also teach where I serve the migrant kids. So in the summer, I'm helping those students throughout that time. So also it's important to kind of be aware of other positions aside from the district that you are serving.
So there are 2 questions that are a little similar. One is, what was it like student teaching for the first time? Were any of you nervous? And if so, how did you get past the nervousness? And then the other is, as a new teacher, how did you adapt and how did you make sure to get support from your principal when you needed it?
So I can't speak too much on the student teaching because my situation was a little unique with being an intern. I was just kind of thrown into a classroom. But in regards to support, know that when you are a new teacher, your district provides you with a mentor, and that mentor will be your support. There are just so many things going on when you're clearing your credential that you will have that individual, and they're required, the district is required to provide X amount of hours to support you in order to maintain retention rates. So keep in mind, you will have your support. And then if your district is strong with the PLC process, which is your professional learning community, within your professional learning community, which are your grade level partners, they will be a system of support as well, in addition to your administration.
So I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Fine, I'll go.
Yeah, you go.
Well, I don't know how it was, it is now, but when I started my student teaching, we started in the summer. So we went from summer to the spring. That's how we did our credential. We started off as a group of students in one classroom. And then the following semester, we did one student, one teacher. And then the next year was, the next semester was very similar. I don't know if they changed the name also. We had a master teacher. That teacher provided, all of the classroom management skills that they implemented in their classroom. And then we had to do like 2 weeks of student teaching where we were responsible for that time. And then as far as working in the district, like I think Jessica mentioned before, there are coaches that are helping you clear your credentials. So definitely reach out to those people that are helping you. Admin is also coming in, watching you, giving you feedback on things that they've noticed. So you're definitely getting a lot of support from people around you. So that really helped out. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to mention Jessica, an instructional coach. Lean on them. They're there for that reason. And again, I've been very fortunate. Admin and coaches and mentors that have been very helpful. My master teacher, I was fortunate enough to teach at Rio Vista Middle School over there on Herndon kind of. I was in the laptop program, so I kind of got ahead of the curve when it came to technology way back then. That was not common, laptop one-to-one classroom. And so I really had no idea what I was doing. And, a great mentor, Gus Rendon, and taught me so much. Lean on them. They're gonna help you out. And at first I was kind of like, is this guy serious? But he threw me in there and said, go for it. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I'm kind of that sink or swim kind of person, and not everybody's this way, but I just jumped in the fire, went for it, and just kind of started doing fun stuff, and learned. And it's a process, and he was great at shaping it. And don't take criticism personally. Principals they don't want to see you gone. They didn't hire you for no reason. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you do well, and that feedback is important. And again, without it, you don't really know where to go. So, and again, Fireball Middle School did a great job of that. They pushed in often. I had a great instructional coach. They would come in, they'd give me feedback. I learned a lot. Take advantage of those opportunities and moments.
So how do some teachers handle competitiveness with other teachers? And how do you handle situations that you disagree with folks at your site?
I'll just jump in. Well, I'm the only first grade teacher at my district. So as far as competitiveness on my former school, I was just unaware of it. I did seek out help when I needed, but you just can't let it get to you. You got to try the best for you. No one else is in your classroom but you and your students. So whatever they're doing is their thing. Whatever you're doing in your classroom, that's yours. Like I said, when you do need help, seek out that help. But as far as competitiveness, I don't have a competitive bone in my body, so I don't really reach out or be aware of what the competition is. But I do seek out help from the teachers that are going in where the students are going next year. So I seek out their help. But yeah, no competitiveness.
I feel like your peers are there more to be collaborative. I've never worked at a district where I feel like there's competition, maybe because I've done SPED. There's not I guess it's only sometimes it's just you, and then you work with the gen ed teacher, but I don't really feel, I don't know if anybody else maybe can talk about this, but I don't think there's ever really competitiveness. I feel like your coworkers are there to collaborate and to help you. Like right now I have a coworker, she teaches the TK first and I have first and second, and I'm always trying to get tips from her since she's been teaching a long time. Like, I want help. I'm going over there and I'm like, you tell me what to do, help me. So I don't know, maybe there's some, but I feel like you could just ignore it. Like if you're in high school, just ignore it. It doesn't matter. It just, you're going to be the best teacher that you are, not who is in room 19 or in room 20. I guess that's the only way you can think of it.
And aligning to your purpose, like again, like going back to why are you here, and making sure you're focused on that. Like, I'm here for the kids, and if I can be competitive, and I've been in competitive sites, it goes back to what's best for kids, and that's what matters. And if we want to be competitive and it benefits the kids, okay. But as long as these conversations are constructive and positive, but the ideal is to be able to support on each other. And that's mostly what I've seen out there. It's kind of rare that I've seen the competitive climate, but it does happen. But again, aligning to why you're there for the kids, and they are what matters.
Yeah, and I think I've never experienced that in that way. And it goes back to what Aida said with PLC groups. Your PLC groups are a support group. You guys work together. Many schools have weekly meetings where you go over things. And again, don't take it personally. If they did better than you, that doesn't necessarily mean you're bad at it or you're not as good as them. It just means it didn't fit you, or you need to try a different way. Everyone's style is unique, and that's the art of teaching. Teaching isn't just knowing your stuff. It's really connecting with students and giving them the information and helping them learn in a process. So, sometimes the things you do you'll fall flat on your face. You'll do a terrible lesson. You'll be discouraged. You put all this effort into it, but don't give up. Just realize that, hey, I got to tweak things. And, the funny thing is sometimes I've done lessons where I'm like, oh, this is going to be terrible. I don't think this is going to work out. And they were great. And it just fit my personality, so you find those little niches, you work on it together. But the PLC process, another thing to look for when you're looking at jobs, is a place where they're supporting each other. I don't know if I would do well in a teaching competitive environment. I guess maybe with testing and AP or something like that would be a thing. But even that, when I taught AP with my colleague, I never took it personally if he scored better than I did. It was a, hey, how'd you do that? What'd you teach him this on that question, that FRQ? Your kid scored way better than me. What was your lesson for that? And we went over it. That's a learning process. And again, it goes to the profession as a whole. Being a lifelong learner. You cannot just think that you're a teacher and you know everything and you're good to go and you've got it going, because the kids are always changing. The information is always changing. The methodology is always changing, and you got to change with it too. And it's a good thing.
So Brett, I think you just answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you love most about being a teacher? And then also, what still challenges you?
So for me, the thing that I love most about being a teacher, aside from, interacting with the kids and being with the kids and seeing my ideas come to fruition, I really enjoy professional development. So when you become a teacher, it's not like you stop learning. It's not like, okay, I'm done with my coursework. I'm done. This is it. No, when you're a teacher, it's a process, and you're always learning things. You're always refining your practices. So the district typically invests in professional development, meaning they pay you and or they pay for you to attend professional development sessions. Now, the way that districts go about this differs. Some districts require it, and they say it's a part of your contract. Some districts will provide you with stipends or a per diem rate for you to go to sessions outside of your contractual time. Now, it's really important to look at the teacher contract prior to applying to a district, so that you can get a general idea of the procedures and the scheduling that they have negotiated between the district and the teachers union. The teachers union is your advocate. They represent you, and they are in the best interest of you. So it's really important to look at that contract coming from two different districts and comparing both contracts. They differ vastly. So I highly recommend that you do that. Now going back to professional development, that's one of my favorite things. I always loved attending professional development. And now that I've gained more experience, I love providing professional development to the teachers. It's really exciting to look at new methodology, looking at new research-based practices, and then applying it to my classroom. So that's just something that always excites me. And there's different ways to go about with professional development. You can read books, you can attend sessions. There's summer institutes that you can attend. I know there's one in Stanford with Dr. Joe Bowler. There's a one in New York that they do. So really looking at that, looking how your district provides the professional development and looking at how they go about it is really important.
So what advice would you give to folks who are in the credential program right now? And then also people who are getting ready to transition into becoming a classroom teacher?
I would really look at your relationships, make sure you have good relationships with your mentor teacher, with the administrator on campus or the vice principal, the intervention teacher. You want to develop a good repertoire because these are the people that you're going to rely on to provide you a good letter of recommendation aside from your professors. Now, personally, this is just my own opinion. When applying for a job, I wouldn't submit all of my letters of recommendations from professors. It's important that employers see you in your capacity as a professional. So make sure that you develop good relationships with the staff that you are working with on this. So again, your mentor teachers, your administrators, other teachers as well.
I'd also say research the district you will be working for. I know that I did that beforehand, and a lot of the things like our ELA program was very similar. So my current district used the same ELA curriculum. So I was very familiar with that. And I think that really helped me out getting started on a new job. So look to see what they use, what services they offer. So definitely research the district and get to know the people that are there. Because I know Aida said administrators, but also get to know office workers, the janitors that clean up your classroom, because those are important as well. They'll look out for you as well. And yeah, those are important people to make connections with.
And utilize those district websites. I know salary schedules came up. For public schools, those are all public. So you can look up, and what Aida was talking about with the scales, you can look that up and look into their LCAP, which is kind of how they're going to spend their money, and their goals and their focus for each district might look a little different. So if you align to that, really look into those. And also there's SIPSAs, so there's school site plans. If you have a specific school site you're interested in, they also have goals and things that they want to work on and focus on. So if that's a passion of yours, that might be somewhere you really look and apply for, and also speak to in interviews.
Okay, so we're down to 5 minutes. I know this past hour has just flown by. So is there anything else? We've been answering, Dr. Godfrey and I've been answering a lot of questions on the side. So hopefully we'll get to the majority of them. But is there anything else everyone would like to add just as the final message?
Just
I'll go. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
for it. No, you please. I've talked too much.
just really go in prepared really research your district, really research your school. I mean, there are so many factors to consider when applying for a district, and you really want to go in prepared so you have a general idea of what to expect. Because if you go in unprepared, you get the job and you're just not happy, and those their goals don't align with yours, then it's going to be really unfortunate. And I think it's really important just to go in prepared. Utilize those documents that Jessica mentioned. Look at the SIPSA, look at the SARC, look at the LCAP. All of the mission statements, the vision, all of the goals are aligned there. You're able to see how they're allocating funds. So it's really important for you to do your research and to go in prepared.
Yeah, and I think just echoing what people have said so far, you know, put your best foot forward. Everyone that you work with is going to be an ally, and so you know you don't want to step on toes. You know, back to what Cecilia was saying, that even the custodians and the campus supervisors, they have relationships with students you wouldn't even know about. They have relationships with staff you wouldn't know about. You know, for example, at my school, my custodian's a really good friend of the principal. You know, I'm very lucky. I have great staff, great principal, but you know, if you didn't know that, you wouldn't really be able to use that in a positive way. You know, the connections can bolster your own standing and availability. But you know, dress nice, get a shirt and tie, and put your best foot forward. I wore a shirt and tie every single day to work when I was a student teacher. You know, I thought it was important. Again, those letters of recommendations from your mentor teacher, your master teachers, are so valuable. They're there with you. Again, I was lucky in my first semester. I was just thrown in there day one. I just started teaching. I taught a whole semester early. And then, you know, second semester, I was at McLean High School. And again, my teachers were awesome. I was actually, you know, they used to bus students. I don't know if they still do it, over to Kremen. And I got to teach at, you know, Fresno State, McLean High School students. It was a great opportunity. And you know, you couldn't do a better opportunity for professors to see you and everybody. And so, you know, you're always worried about putting a good vibe out there. And you know, just be positive, have fun, and realize that you're making a difference even when you don't know you are. I've had students come up to me years later. I had no idea the impacts that I've made, and I've only been teaching about 8-9 years now. And you know, it's just amazing the things that you get to do. So it's a great profession. It's very rewarding, but just be positive, be a good influence on others, and you'll do well.
Any other final words of advice?
Relationships and growth mindset. Like building those with everyone you meet, all your students, everyone. And then, you know, what Brett was speaking to. Don't take it personal. We're here to learn, and this profession is learning. So it continues.
Yeah, as teachers, you will have days where you feel like you are the best teacher ever, and days where you feel like you are the worst teacher ever. So just kind of bank those days where you feel great about yourself as a teacher to get you through the harder days. Definitely. Well, we're sorry that we didn't get to all of your questions, and I can tell Jody's gonna do some kind of wrap up now.
Well, thank you so much for all the panelists for being here today. And thank you so much, Dr. Godfrey, and for all the participants that attended. Like I said, this will be on our YouTube account recorded. And then also we will be trying to do one of these every semester. So if you didn't get your questions answered today, hopefully next semester we'll have it kind of early so you could get those answered before you go to the next journey of your career path. But thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much. That's all I could say, but definitely go visit our website, fresnostate.edu/careers, and we have a lot of good information there. All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.